So, Andrea, let's start with a question everyone has been asking me. How is your onboarding process progressing? According to your investor presentation, you have more than 200 names, I think that 240 names in your ecosystem. How is the conversion from demo accounts to paying customers going?
Thank you for having me, Victor. It's always nice talking to you. And thank you for the question. It's a question I get all the time too. We actually need to update our presentation because now we're at 246 companies. So we're continuing to grow the network, which is very much still our focus and the ecosystem. And the conversion is going very well. We got actually very lucky. We made an announcement at the end of last year that we signed a new European manufacturer, and they actually buy a lot of copper scrap from scrap suppliers, which was about the same time that we signed the Jules acquisition. And Jules is a platform really tailored exactly for those scrap suppliers. And so we have been really effectively been able to convert the freemium customers that were onboarding as part of that implementation to be Jules customers. And I'm super proud to say that we've been able to convert many of them. And we had less than 10 paying customers at the beginning of November of last year, and now we have 28.
That's great news.
The vast majority of those have been converted via our conversion and our implementation process, and by leveraging the network and the ecosystem that we have built. So our strategy is working. We are seeing an acceleration in that. We're seeing a big growth in contracted revenue and new sales. So not just a growth in our ecosystem and growth in our paying customers, but we've also grown our contracted ARR by more than 800,000 Canadian this time last year. So that's almost a 60% increase in contracted revenue. That wasn't reflected in our financials at the end of last year just because of how the billings work. But we're seeing that flywheel momentum from a commercial perspective. So we're very happy for that.
Okay, so you have, how many paying customers do you currently have? 26?
28.
28. You actually just posted a press release. I haven't time to read it yet, but can you talk a little about this press release?
Yes, it's super exciting. This is really focused more on traceability. So we had a mining company that sells copper concentrates come to us, and they are negotiating a series of different MOUs or memorandums of understanding and different commercial agreements with their customers. And they said their customers are actually requiring more visibility and traceability into the source of their raw materials, including the copper concentrates that they're buying from this mining company. And so the mining company came to MineHub as a partner to showcase how they could provide that traceability to the market. We completed a pilot unfortunately, we didn't, as happens often in this market, we didn't get approval to share the names. But these are very large and important market participants. And we were able to trace copper concentrate that was coming from a mine on this part of the world and was being shipped to Europe and being purchased by a major manufacturer or smelter that was then going to further refine that. And we captured all of the ESG related information about the shipment. So not just the attributes of the concentrate and what mine it came from and the moisture content and different sort of qualitative aspects, but also ESG and sustainability related metrics as well, the emissions. We tracked the shipments using our real-time tracking capabilities. We created transportation emissions. So we provided scope 3 emissions calculations. We captured all of the documents, and we created a digital product passport for that concentrate.
Okay. Okay, now let's talk about your products. How many products do you currently offer? How many revenue streams do you have? I mean, you have Navigator, Assay Manager. How is your business structured?
It's still structured very similarly to how we spoke in the past. So we still charge SaaS fees, recurring fees for customers to access our platform. We typically charge, in most cases, on a monthly basis. And the amount of that fee is still estimated off a per metric ton basis. And so with Navigator and with Assay Manager, that just adjusts, how many tools they're leveraging from MineHub, which affects sort of the fee that they're paying. And so if they're using Navigator and that's tracking only, that's a lower fee than if they're using the platform for Navigator plus Assay Manager plus invoicing, plus Trade Manager plus reporting. And so that's the way that we structure the business, but it's still a SaaS model with volumetric fees with a minimum fee that we charge. What's changed in the last sort of 6 months is that with the Jules acquisition, that's brought on a client base that is not only enterprise, large customers, but also SMB or small and mid-sized businesses. So we've diversified our client base to not only, large billion-dollar companies, but also a large number of trading companies that are more in that mid-size level. And so those contract values are naturally smaller because the volumes are smaller. So the fee structure and the business model is the same. The dollar amount varies based on the volume and how much of our tool set they're utilizing.
Okay. Next question. In early May, MineHub announced the launch of Assay Manager. What problems in the commodities industry does this new module help to solve? Why is it important? How does this module help your customers?
Great question. MineHub historically has always been focused on solving the problems for the bulk commodities market, and MineHub even prior to the Weybridge acquisition, because you may remember I came into MineHub through the acquisition.
Mm-hmm.
So MineHub, even way before my time, was always focused on creating a tool set that helped mining companies to manage the assay process, because in bulk commodities markets, when you're selling, unlike bulk commodities, when you're selling copper cathode, that is a pretty homogeneous commodity in the term already, right? And so there's obviously some variability in the pricing, but it tends to get priced off the LME, the London Metals Exchange, or COMEX. And the quality of the actual product is not that different, right? So there's different brands and ways to sort of price the cathode, but people are not taking samples, necessarily of the cathode when they're buying and selling. They look at the certificate of analysis, they look at the brand and the mine, and it gets priced off that because it's more commoditized. For concentrates, there's a lot of variability in the content of the actual concentrate, how much gold, how much silver, how much copper, if there's any arsenic or any impurities. And so when bulk commodities like concentrates are bought and sold in the market, the buyer and the seller actually take a sample of the material, they send it to a lab, and they look at those different chemistries. How much gold, how much silver, how much copper, and that directly impacts the price that is paid for the commodity. So it is always sampled, often before it gets loaded onto a vessel, and a lot of times after it's loaded onto a vessel. And you can imagine that is very, very commercially sensitive. And the tool that MineHub had spent years building with expertise and input from the market is still a very powerful tool that we offer via our concentrates application. But we got a lot of feedback in the market from different mining companies that concentrates application that has built over the last few years, it depends on the buyer and the seller both using the platform. And it depends on API integrations from labs, from the laboratories that do the sampling. And so we got a lot of feedback from customers saying, I don't want to use this big platform that requires everyone to use the platform. I want something that I can use internally, where I can streamline all of the manual work that goes on behind the scenes to actually look at the assay. I have to look at my results. I have to look at my counterparty's results. You have to look at the contract terms. It's quite a complicated analysis that people use Excel for. And so we built a tool that really empowers mining companies with a level of sophistication that, frankly, a lot of the traders have entire groups that make many, many millions of dollars on optimizing the assay process. This is a very commercially sensitive part. There's a lot of decisions to make. You can, when there's differences, you negotiate the differences. It's a very dynamic part of the process, and traders are very, very good at that. But historically, mining companies didn't really have the tools to really look at the financial impact of different negotiations. And so we got a lot of feedback in the market that we want a tool that we can use just internally to really, from an operations perspective, make the process more efficient, but from a financial perspective, arm us with sophisticated tools to better be able to negotiate this process. And so that's really the Assay Manager. It's an internal tool that companies can use to manage that process, to optimize and to really drive more profitability. And the other feedback that we've gotten is that many companies use SAP or other systems, mostly SAP, but some use Oracle or Microsoft Dynamics or different ERP systems, accounting systems internally. And companies that are buying products like copper cathode or primary aluminum, the pricing formulas, they're not that complicated. It's an index formula plus or minus a fixed premium. So a lot of those systems can generate those invoices quite well. But in concentrates, the formulas are very complicated. It's this percentage of the gold content times this amount. And if it's over this threshold, then add this. Very, very complicated pricing formulas that the ERP systems do not handle well. So many companies are actually creating those invoices manually because they can't do it systematically. So we built out, as part of Assay Manager, invoicing capabilities. So we can also create very sophisticated invoices for this part of the market.
Very interesting. Just for curiosity, how many people do you have in your company? Because it must take up such a giant amount of work to first think about all of these things and to build all of these things.
We have 40 people working full-time at the company. We also have arrangements with some contractors. So if we have a ton of work one month, we can add some capacity. But we're working a lot. People are definitely at capacity. We're looking to grow the team. So we're going to be bringing on some more engineers onto the team. We're going to be bringing on some more salespeople to help us to drive sales because we're seeing such great momentum. And we're using AI a lot. We use Claude internally. And so we've been able to create some huge productivity gains by using AI from everything from content generation to what we do from a sales and marketing perspective, what we put out on LinkedIn, thought leadership, different publications and thought pieces that we put out, emails that we send, the way we manage our sales process. So much of that has been automated, and we're also using Claude to write code. So our engineering,
crazy.
Our engineers review everything. We have 2 reviews for everything, but it has created, so there's always a manual intervention, but it has created huge productivity gains across the board, from the sales team to customer success to product to engineering. So that has helped us a lot.
If I'm not mistaken, you actually posted a press release about AI, that you were using a lot of AI in your programs.
A lot of AI. We are using a lot of AI. Internally, right now we have 18 AI agents that help us with automate internal tasks. We also have incorporated AI into the product. So Jules has AI agents that help our customers to automate back office functions. We're using AI to improve the way that we can automate data. So we have been able to automate data in ways that we were not able to before. We're using AI to create very cool reports, really, really cool intelligence and custom dashboarding and reporting. We use AI in our sales presentations to create custom sales presentations super quickly. Something that took 8 hours now takes 10 minutes, literally.
Wow.
It's unbelievable. And we're actually launching an AI advisory service. We've gotten so much interest because of all of the work that we're doing around AI. And we've been to a lot of conferences lately. So we went to ACC, which is the American Copper Council meeting in Austin. I was in Chile for a week meeting with different companies. We went to the Port of Panama City for an event. We're going to Harbor. We were at the RIMA event. So we've really been on the front lines lately, and in all anybody is talking about and trying to figure out is how they can use AI in their business. And so we're actually launching a service where we will partner with the company and build an AI agent to automate a back office function that they have at their company, regardless of whether or not they use the MineHub platform. So we can actually develop agents for companies now as advisors, as a service, because we do that so well for ourselves and in our own platform.
Well, what a crazy world.
It is a crazy world. I like 3 months, and it is crazy how much it is changing. We had a board meeting 6 months ago, and we have one board member who's very into AI. He was ahead of the curve, and he was in Japan, and he told me he booked that entire Japan trip with AI agents. He didn't call one person or do one thing, and he just showed up in Japan and everything was booked. And I couldn't believe that was possible. And now 6 months later, we're using AI all day long. It's unbelievable.
100% correct. No mistakes.
It depends what it's for. For booking and reservations, if it has all of the context and it knows your preferences, zero issues. And for us, when we write code, for example, it depends what it is. So for simple things, that doesn't require a lot of business logic, it is 100% correct, I'm being told. For things that are a bit more complex, that require logic, you need to iterate and kind of go back and forth with the AI. The AI is not perfect from the beginning, because the AI doesn't know what it doesn't know, right? It needs the context, and the business logic piece is the part where the human really needs to intervene.
Okay, very interesting. Now talking about Abaxx Technologies. How is your partnership with Abaxx Technologies progressing? What updates can you share? Is this part of your business already generating revenue? If not, when should we expect that to happen?
So I'll take your questions in order. The partnership with Abaxx continues to go very well. We are still very much collaborating on the digital title pilot. So Abaxx completed their other pilots. They spent some time reviewing the learnings. We reviewed those with them. They made some adjustments and improvements to their technology. And their technical teams have been closely in touch with our technical teams through all of that development, because Abaxx continues to advance and further develop based on everything that they've learned from the pilots and from input in the market. And Abaxx released a PR that they've signed their first customer in Singapore, actually, to leverage the framework. So we've been, there along supporting them, as they continue to evolve their capabilities. In the meantime, we've been in the market getting a ton of feedback from buyers and sellers on the digital title and sort of refining what the pilot should be. And we've learned a lot through that process. So I won't be able to, we will be releasing some information together based on that. There will be some advancements that we'll be announcing on the pilot, but we are getting, long story short, there's a lot of interest in the market to understand how the digital title pilot can help buyers and sellers get paid faster and get charged lower financing rates. So that's really become the focus for us right now. So we've been engaged not just with mining companies and manufacturers, but we're starting to engage a lot more with the banks. And that's what I can say on that. The other piece is related to, we've spoken before, Victor, that another part of the Abaxx partnership is collaborating commercially. Our strategy is to advance, into and to enter other commodity markets. And so hopefully we'll have some official news that we can share there, but we are accelerating that. And so we are collaborating very closely with Abaxx on one specific market, which, we will be able to talk about in more detail very soon. But the Abaxx team members have been given access to our platform. They've been booking trades. They've been tracking shipments of this new commodity. And so we've advanced a lot there. We've gotten great feedback from the team. And we're going to be looking to launch MineHub officially as a delivery module for any of those contracts that go to physical delivery. So good progress there. In terms of revenue, sorry, just to answer quickly your last question, we always said from the beginning, this is more going to be a medium to long-term commercialization, right? So the pilots are free. It's about getting feedback and engagement in the market. From our perspective, when we do enter that new market and we start moving that new commodity through the platform, that will directly be tied to revenue because we will charge, in line with our SaaS revenue. On the digital title side, I think, frankly, it will be some time until we see revenue. I think that is a extremely powerful and a huge opportunity, but we've always said is more of a medium to long-term opportunity. So we're not forecasting any revenue even this year on the MineHub side from digital title. It's more about creating a foundation and getting that engagement and that feedback.
Can you talk a little about digital title? I mean, I think I know what that is, but can you explain didactically?
It's hard to explain. It's funny to watch everyone try to explain and understand because it's very conceptual. But the idea is that ultimately you have a buyer and a seller that is buying a physical commodity, and that gets financed by a bank or LCs and via different vehicles, right? And obviously the buyer and the seller both take risk, and the buyer and the seller both have to deal with payment. So the seller wants to get paid faster, and the both of them want to take on less risk, right? And so this whole notion of digital title from Abaxx was that you create a digital equivalent of the physical cargo. And so when you're thinking about settlement and when you're thinking about risk, you basically minimize that risk because you have all these digital controls over the user identity, where the cargo is, the contract, everything is secure in a ledger where things cannot be modified. You're certain, you have buyer and seller validating everything in a very controlled and secured layer of technology. So that helps to mitigate the risk. With MineHub, you're tracking the actual cargo. You see the actual digital bill of lading and the title document. So all of this helps to reduce the risk of the transaction. And when Abaxx and I first started talking about this, it was originally we had thought about it like, well, we're creating an equivalent so you can actually transfer title sooner. So if I'm selling copper to you, today, I need to get a paper bill of lading from the shipping line, and I need to put it in FedEx, and I need to mail it to you, and you need to get it, and you need to go in your car to the port,
Easy.
present it to take title. You need to present it to your bank. They need to validate it. By the time all of that happens and you actually take title, it could be weeks, if not months, until you actually take title to your underlying commodity. So under this framework, if different conditions are met, you could get title way, way, way sooner. And you could take that title and you could use it to put it as collateral for lending, to put it as margin for hedges if you're hedging that, or in theory, even to resell it. But what's interesting in MineHub's ecosystem, the feedback we got was that I don't actually need digital. I don't want to sell that commodity faster because I'm using that. I'm melting that into my manufacturing as part of the manufacturing facility, or I need to deliver it to my client. So they were less concerned with getting title sooner, but they were very, very interested in the risk mitigation piece. And the fact that because we have such a secure structure with so many controls about the actual commodity and what's getting financed using Abaxx plus MineHub, that means that banks could charge potentially lower rates for the financing. And because we could speed up the whole settlement process, the sellers could get paid faster. And that part is the overwhelming feedback that we've gotten from anybody that MineHub has spoken to in the market. I know that Josh and the Abaxx team have spoken to other, the money market, different markets where there's nuances there and they do care to get title faster and the structure is different. But in MineHub's world, what we've heard is, I don't necessarily care to get title faster, but if you could figure out how to get banks to charge me less and for me to get paid faster, sign me up.
Great, very interesting, and a very powerful tool too. Okay, next. And what about the integration with Jules AI? How is that progressing? What updates can you share?
I can actually say, because I have the basis of comparison, when MineHub purchased Waybridge, and everything that you read during times of M&A is often could be the most volatile and tricky and sometimes difficult time for a company. And honestly, when MineHub purchased Waybridge, that transition was not that smooth at times. But I have been incredibly impressed in how seamlessly the Jules team has integrated into our team. Like, culturally, we are so aligned. We come at it with such a great perspective. The people element is really important, and the teams and the people have been working together super well. There's a huge amount of respect that people come at the integration, and because the systems are targeting different segments of the market. It's been just seamless to incorporate them as an expanded part of our offering. We didn't have to worry too much about, when Waybridge and MineHub merged, the platforms were overlapping. So we had to make choices. I'm going to choose this, or I'm going to choose this to bring everything together into one platform. But Jules just folds in really nicely into our offering, where we can just continue to offer it as a separate module and a separate platform. And as we were talking about at the beginning of the conversation, the Jules network also folds in seamlessly into our network. We're literally onboarding this European manufacturer, and we're onboarding all of the scrap traders that Jules was targeting as customers. So it has been such a nice integration from a technology perspective, from a team perspective, from a people perspective. It makes us want to do more M&A for sure.
Mm-hmm. Great. Okay, moving on. On April, MineHub announced a memorandum of understanding to advance digital trade finance in commodities. In that press release, you mentioned Mitigram. First, who is Mitigram, and what does this announcement represent for the development of your business?
Great question. Mitigram is a company that is not that different than Surecomp. So Surecomp and Mitigram are two of the predominant commodities trade finance platforms that are working with different banks, not just in commodities, but in other markets as well, helping to facilitate the trade finance platform. And they really target primarily those banks as customers. And what they offer is a digital interface that helps them to manage letters of credit and different instruments that are financing the underlying transaction. And if you remember when we talked about Surecomp, we always had this thesis that MineHub has visibility into the underlying commodity that's getting financed. We have access directly from the source of all the shipping documents, and that is a key part of the financing process. Presentation of documents is the key part to release the LC for payment. And so we have always been looking for different partners and to get more involved in trade finance. We think that we have a key role to play to facilitate the trade finance process, whether it's within Abaxx Digital Title or even not. And so Mitigram is another customer very similar to Surecomp, where we're integrating our platforms to share the shipment data and the shipment documents to provide the market a more comprehensive offering that helps to facilitate the whole trade finance platform. Mitigram also has the benefit of, in addition, Surecomp platform is very robust and it automates all the workflows. It creates transparency. It has a lot of insights and reporting. Mitigram has all of that, and they also have actually a marketplace that helps to match demand and supply for financing. And that is really interesting for some of the small to mid-size companies that are looking for financing. And they're looking for financing to do more business. Maybe they're tapped out already with some of the larger banks, and they're looking for other means of financing to do more business. And so Mitigram is a really powerful tool to match supply and demand for trade finance, which is interestingly very appealing to the SMB, the traders that we're targeting with Jules.
Okay. I was going to ask you about about the difference between Surecomp and Mitigram, but I think you've already answered it.
Yeah, it's very similar. It's really just they're the two predominant platforms. We never had exclusivity as part of the terms of either agreement. We always wanted to be able to share data seamlessly, regardless of whether banks were using Surecomp or Mitigram. And we think that they're both, really reputable companies that we're so happy to be partnered with.
Okay. And how is your partnership with Surecomp progressing? What stage is it currently in, and how is it developing?
Yeah, Surecomp is interesting. So they went through some management changes at the company with some senior management. So honestly, that partnership was on hold for a little bit while they were kind of resetting on their corporate priorities. But we've now re-engaged with them. They're very interested in expanding their Asia business. And they saw our press release. We signed a deal with Sumitomo Metal Mining, which is one of the largest smelters in Japan. So that was a trigger to re-engage in Asia.
That just happened, right?
Yeah, we just released that somewhat recently. That was one of the big, really exciting deals that we've signed this quarter. And that will further solidify our entry into the Japanese market. And so we've been in touch with Surecomp because that's a perfect place for us to collaborate. And so we will be pitching some joint customers together in Asia.
How important is trade finance becoming within MineHub's long-term strategy? Could trade finance ultimately become one of the main drivers of adoption for the platform?
I think time will tell whether it's the main driver, but I think it will be a key driver for adoption of the platform and of digital tools in the commodity supply chain more broadly. Even it's about putting together the different puzzle pieces to create a truly digital solution for the market. And trade finance is absolutely going to be a key part of that, and a very effective way to spread adoption into new markets. So, we didn't talk about this, but one of the things that's very interesting to us about our partnerships with Mitigram and Surecomp is that while we're mostly focused on metals, they're financing agriculture and LNG and all, gold and all of these other transactions. And so by working together, not only
they can also be a bridge.
Exactly. Not only does it open up new revenue for us via a trade finance product, but it also gets us into those new markets much more effectively. So for us, it's 100% a key part of our medium and long-term strategy. Even in the short term, we think, creating that foundation, having the integration with those platforms is really important. The other thing that we're seeing, which is less specifically on trade finance, but MineHub has always focused historically on like the physical flow of the commodity, right? The order, the buy and sell trade of the actual, physical purchase, the movement of the ship as like the truck is moving with the copper in it. We did not focus that much on the financial or financial risk side. Assay Manager and the creating of invoices is the first time that we're creating invoices. With Jules, because Jules has so many trading customers, they had a hedging. We have a hedging and exposure reporting module and capabilities, and so that has brought this pressure to add sort of financial risk and the financial side of the business more broadly throughout MineHub. So even beyond just trade finance, I think being able to create that bridge and look at your physical risk and the physical movement of the underlying good combined with the financial risk, whether it's your hedge or your financing or the value of your invoice or what's outstanding, is definitely a key sort of moat or competitive advantage for MineHub.
Okay. In March, you announced a partnership with MineSpider. First, who is MineSpider and what does this company do? And why is this partnership relevant, important for your business?
So MineSpider is a really interesting company based in Germany, and they are one of the leading providers of digital product passports. And so we have seen
battery passports.
Like battery passports. So we just announced that we did a traceability project with a mining company, but we don't have, we're not servicing the automobile industry. We don't create product passports, for batteries or for anything else. And there is a really obvious synergy between traceability and tracking. And MineSpider, their entire business is focused on digital product passports for batteries and for many other things, for critical minerals like gold, for diamonds, tin, and even copper. And they have a very comprehensive digital product passport and traceability platform that provides auditability and compliance and the actual QR code, with the passport for these important commodities. They are working, in partnership with different governments. They have a ton of traction in the automobile industry. And so our partnership is really a testament to us, similar to our partnerships to get us into trade finance. This is a really effective way for us to enter traceability and sustainability with one of the leading providers in the market. And the value that MineHub brings is really primarily around the tracking. So now MineSpider can offer its customers not just digital product passwords, but also real-time tracking on all of the cargoes. And it also allows MineHub to invest in other areas. So rather than further developing our own product passport, we'd rather partner with someone who has that expertise and already has, one that's widely adopted in the market, because there's a lot of nuances. There's so many rules and regulations and what, data points need to be connected. And so we partnered with the predominant experts in the space so that we could offer a really robust product passport, and that we could really enhance the value that we serve to the market by combining traceability with tracking.
Recently, MineHub announced that it changed the reporting of its financial results from quarterly to semi-annual. Why did the company make that move? What was the motivation and rationale behind this decision?
Yeah, very good question. So honestly, we've been wanting to make the move for a while. We have a very lean team. We have our CFO, and then we have one other person that manages all payroll, all vendors, all financial accounting, they also manage HR, any people issues, any administrative issues with the TSXV. And so for such a lean team, it has been difficult for us to put out official quarterly reports. We also, because we're a public company, we're audited. We have our financials are audited, so they're managing a huge amount of work for a financial audit. We also, because we invest so much in data security, we have audits for SOC 2 and for our data and our technology infrastructure, which they are a key part of. And so, frankly, it was for such a lean team. We've been wanting to move already to semi-annual reporting, but the Jules acquisition really tipped us over the edge, because that was very complicated to handle. Recording. It's many more customers, many more invoices, many more employees. And so it was just, we would have had to hire, a team to be able to keep up. And so we just figured, that we are going to be doing more interviews with you. We're going to be doing investor webinars. We're going to be putting out more press releases so that we can share traction. But the actual quarterly reporting was it was too much for such a lean team.
Mm-hmm. Now let me ask you this: is uplisting in your horizon, or it's too early still?
It's always in the back of our mind. I think not this year, but maybe next year. It's something that we talk about a lot. I don't think it's going to happen, immediately, but it's in the back of our minds for sure.
Over the next years, we could see that happen.
Yeah, definitely.
And finally, what are MineHub's main goals and objectives for 2026?
Our goals and objectives for 2026 are in many ways a continuation of what we spoke about last year. We're seeing our strategy work very well. More specifically, we want to grow revenue in our core markets. So the markets where we've had the most traction, obviously copper and aluminum, and now with the Jules acquisition, scrap or recycled materials. So we want to grow revenue in our existing sales pipeline in the markets that we know well with the ecosystem that we've built. And we also, that's the number one goal. The second really important goal is to grow revenue and develop a sales pipeline in new markets, so in new commodity markets. That will be driven via our partnerships and different sales and marketing activities that we're doing. We're already talking to many different customers in different markets from our core markets, so we're really building the foundation for that. And that's something I had alluded to with Abaxx. Abaxx is definitely helping us with that as well. Third really important goal is to maintain investor momentum. We are a public company, so continuing to have investor support and liquidity is really important, especially because our fourth goal is to continue to actively explore M&A. We really like the way we structured the Jules acquisition. We paid mostly in shares, so having the share price up is very helpful to support M&A activity. I have a big pipeline of M&A targets that we're looking at. So I spent a lot of my time looking at data rooms, assessing different companies. There are a lot of really interesting opportunities out there. So that is a very key focus. And then the last, but definitely not least, is maintaining scalable growth. So, constantly incorporating AI to drive productivity gains, making sure that the platform is secure and scalable as we grow, and that it can support, that the platform and the infrastructure and also our team can support the growth that we see from a commercial perspective. So scalability, maintaining scalable growth is the last really important goal that we have.
Okay. One final question. When should we see the next financials? Only in the second half of the year, in July, August? Do you have any idea about that?
I should know. I think it's actually in end of August or beginning of September will be the official financials. But we will be organizing soon in the next few weeks an investor webinar. We'll be giving some more information around revenue growth and some other metrics. We spoke already a lot about the customer traction, but we'll be giving a broader update to the market. We're also working on a press release with some more information around our financial performance.
Okay, Andrea, thank you so much for this interview again. And well, that's it. See you next time.
Thank you, Victor.
Bye-bye.
Bye.